Hey, Team Avatar, this is Captain Yeet here for you for the Avatar Last Airbender episode review. This is going to be Avatar Last Airbender Season 1, Episode 10, titled Jet Redo, Book 1 Water. So, let's get into it. So, the beginning of the episode starts off with a recap of a few different episodes, specifically some Sokka moments, and then we get the regular opening. Then we cut over to Momo. Momo's chasing this bug around the forest, and eventually he lands into an animal trap. His animal trap is specifically a metal cage on a pulley system. The pulley system rails up the metal cage super sky high. Then we go over to Aang. He goes, "Hey, where's Momo?" Team Avatar is eventually able to find Momo. Aang uses the Airbender to jump up sky high into the sky, grabs the middle cage and pulls it down, and lets Momo out. And when he does that, he looks up. He sees two other animals in metal cages. He goes, alright, fine, I guess I'll let you guys out too. And he jumps up again. Now Sokka goes, oh my goodness, this is gonna take forever. So he pulls out his boomerang and throws it, and they cuts the ropes. Aang's like, hey, that works. So Sokka notices that, wait a second, these specific cages are made by Fire Nation. We need to go. So they all go back over to Appa. They start to pack up, and Katara and Aang want to jump on Appa and fly. But Sokka says his instincts are telling him we should just walk this time. Why? Because think about it. Zuko and the Fire Nation are always able to find them. Why do you think that is? It's because of Appa. He's too noticeable. And they have to go back and forth on this, and then Sokka's like, what do you mean he's not too noticeable? He's a 10-ton giant bison with an arrow on his head. Of course he's too noticeable. Aang does something really funny though. He goes, "It's okay, Appa. He's just jealous he doesn't have an arrow." And then what's his name? Well, that was what's his name? Katara. She gets really mad at Sokka, and she goes, "Sokka, why do you think you're the boss?" He goes, "I don't think I'm the boss, but I am the leader of this group." You're the leader? It's sort of be Aang. He's the Avatar. He goes, "Aang? He's just a kid." And then Aang is like dangling on Appa on Appa's horn. He goes, "Yeah, he's right." He's like, now I've been trying to, fight back on it. Like, yeah, I'm just a kid. Yeah, he's right. He's just goofing around on his horn. And then he goes, why should you be the leader, Sokka? Your voice still cracks. Because I'm the oldest. And she goes, you wouldn't be so bossy if you kissed a girl. I've kissed a girl before. She goes, oh, really? Who? Was it Grand Grand? I've met Grand Grand. So eventually Sokka's like, look, my instinct is just telling me we shouldn't fly this time. We should walk. So eventually we jump cut to them walking, and while they're walking, Aang is like, "Oh my goodness, how does anybody get around without a flying bison? I mean, this is ridiculous." She goes, "Hey, you can ask Sokka's instincts." Hey, Sokka's instincts. He goes, "Okay, guys, it's not funny. Like that was funny for like 2 seconds. This is not funny anymore." So they keep on walking. Sokka goes, "Look, I know walking is kind of aggravating, but at least we're not going to run into any Fire Nation soldiers." But as soon as he says that, they walk into a Fire Nation camp. I mean, come on. What are the odds? They try to run away, but as soon as they try to run away, one of the Fire Nation soldiers, almost a water bend, fire bends a giant fireball behind them, and it makes like a fire wall. So now they can't run away. What are we going to do? Now, Sokka does try to bluff. He goes, hey, let us go, and we won't hurt you. If I could edit, I would edit in that scene from the first Ice Age. That was a bluff, huh? Yeah. Yeah, that was a bluff. That scene is so funny to me. But he's just bluffing. That's not really gonna work on like 20 different guys. But out of nowhere, we hear this dart hit one of the Fire Nation soldiers and they fall over and pass out. And they're like, hey, what just happened? And then we get a bunch of these new characters that come out the woodwork and start to help Aang, Katara, and Sokka fight against the Fire Nation. Specifically, the leader of these freedom fighters is called Jet. He uses these hook blade things to fight. I don't know the name of them, but he uses these hook blade things to fight, and then the rest of his crew comes out. Pipsqueak comes out. This really big, gigantic guy. Long shot. This guy with a bow and arrow. We get to see Smeller B, this girl with like rough looking hair and like these war tattoos on her face. But not war tattoos, war paint. We get to get this other guy called the Duke. He's like this really short. Whenever he is a kid. I mean, they're all kids, but specifically the Duke, he's like the youngest of them all, so he's like really, really short compared to everybody else. We do get this one really cool shot of Jet when he like grabs these two Fire Nation soldiers, slams them on the ground. He goes, "Hey, let's do this," and they start to fight against the Fire Nation soldiers. It was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool scene. And Pipsqueak, yeah, that's old Pipsqueak. Like I said, Pipsqueak, it's funny because his name is Pipsqueak, but he's a really big guy, and man, he is a big guy. He's so big, he uses a log to fight. That's how big he is. And they're all supposed to be around the same age, besides from the Duke. He's a little bit smaller than everybody else. But man, I don't know what they're feeding this kid, but they gotta stop. I mean, this guy looks about bigger than me. And I'm 6 even. He looks bigger than me, boy. Like, my goodness, he's a big, big guy. Eventually, after some fighting, they're able to beat the Fire Nation. They all run away from the camp. And then Qatar and everybody, thanks them. Now, Jet specifically says that they were actually waiting to raid this place all morning. They just needed a really good distraction. And I mean, hey, they came along and were a really good distraction. And then he started to introduce everybody. Like I said before, we get Long Shot, Similar B, Pipsqueak, and everybody else. But Smeller B, this has to be a Zoro reference from One Piece. I never noticed this, but when he starts to introduce everybody individually, we go over to Smeller B, and Smeller B has two blades in his hand, and then he has one blade in his mouth. Well, no, I think Smeller B's a girl, so C has one blade in her mouth and two blades in his hand. I said he again, but it doesn't matter. Smeller B's supposed to be a girl, I think. But I'm like, what? I never noticed that, but yeah, that definitely has to be a Zoro reference, which is really funny. I'm like, yo, that's definitely a Zoro reference. Anyway, after that happens, Jet's crew starts to raid the Fire Nation camp for all of their supplies, and we get this other funny joke to where the Duke he goes, "Hey Jet, look at this. The Fire Nation has these explosive jelly barrels. That's really good." Then Pipsqueak comes over, "Hey Jet, look at this. The Fire Nation has this jelly candy. That's really good too. Don't mix those two up. Yeah, please don't mix those two up." And throughout the episode, Katara, you can tell she likes Jet. Anytime Jet says something, she blushes. She just wants to get really close to Jet. She's always trying to talk to him. Like, she really likes him. Now, Aang doesn't really notice this because most of the time, Aang is not really near Jet and Katara whenever she's blushing. There's like one or two times to where he is near them and he's just not noticing it, which I don't know how. I don't know how. Yo, I paused this at the right moment. Look at this screenshot. I paused it at the right moment, man. This is definitely a Zoro reference. Look at this. Smeller B. Dope. Robador's B. This is a dope screenshot. I paused at the right moment, boy. But anyway, while they're talking, Jet goes, hey, you guys. Oh, I forgot about this other joke where Aang thought the Duke, this really short kid, was Pipsqueak. Pipsqueak goes, "You think my name is funny?" "Yeah, it's hilarious." And then he hits Aang on the back. Not because he's mad at him, but he's laughing, but he's so big it slams him on the ground. By the way, Jet goes, you guys should come to my hideout. And everybody's like, yeah, okay, we'll come to your hideout. So they go over to these trees, and there's this pulley system. There's these different ropes like dangling. You grab onto a rope, and it reels you all the way up to the hideout. Now, specifically, Aang, he says, I'll get up there myself. He uses airbending, which I don't know why he didn't just use the pulley system. I mean, you don't know really where you're going. I mean, I guess you're going up, but he should have just used the pulley system. But he flies up there himself. Sokka, he grabs a rope, it reels him up. And then Qatar, she grabs onto the same rope of Jet, and then the whole screen, like literally the whole background changes into like this really romantic atmosphere. She's blushing, looking at Jet. I'm like, yo, Aang, get down here now. You need get back down here. Aang. This is bad. This is really bad. Aang. You got a problem. you you gotta like look at this. The whole background changes and everything. Like this is ridiculous. This was so bad. Like, oh, it just sucks. Aang was not down here, boy. Aang should have been down here. He would have stopped this instantly. But eventually, the pulley system brings them all the way up to the hideout, which is a bunch of these like little platforms and tree huts. It looks really cool and a bunch of zip lines. So when they look at the hideout, they start to walk and talk. And Jet has his main crew that we saw helping us fight, but he also has a bunch of these other kids in this crew too. Because we see these kids just around. We don't get their names. We really don't even get design. We just see the back of their heads, and that kind of makes me wonder what happened to them. Because later on in the series, we meet up with Jet and his main crew again, but some of them aren't there. I think it's been a while since I watched that episode. Lake Loga, I think it was. But I remember, his main crew was there and Jet, but these other random kids weren't there. So I wonder what happened to them, where they went. But yeah, they just kind of just in the background. They're not exactly talking to anybody. And specifically, there's one girl with like a bunch of ponytails. We also get this little boy with like a really big staff. But yeah, this is like the big hideout in the trees. It looks pretty cool. I really like it. Looks really dope. So then they start to walk and talk. And Jet specifically mentions that 5 years ago, the Fire Nation took over this Earth Kingdom village off to the side of the forest, and ever since then, they've been messing up their trade. Yeah, they've just been messing up all the Fire Nation operations, and they also been raiding the little camps like they did at the beginning of this episode. So they really want to get their hands on the Jet and them, but they're not going to. They're too good. Then they go into the backstories of everybody. Well, not specifically everybody, just specifically Longshot, the Duke, and Jet. He specifically said that the Fire Nation burned down Longshot's home. Uh, they found the Duke when he was trying to steal some of their food. They don't think the Duke ever actually had a regular home. And Jet, well, the Fire Nation killed his mom and dad when he was 8. I think he's supposed to be around Sokka's and Katara's age. So like, what? Aang's 12, Sokka and Katara's like 13, 14. So not that much older than Aang. But yeah, the Fire Nation killed his mom and dad when he was 8 years old, which is really sad. Obviously, Qatar brings up that the Fire Nation took out her and Sokka's mom. They both apologize for each other, like, I'm sorry to hear that. And then we fast forward to later that night. They're having a really big feast celebrating their attack on the Fire Nation today. And then Jet specifically sits down and Qatar goes, "Wow, Jet, that was an amazing speech. It wasn't anything too crazy. Like, calm down, Qatar." Like, I mean, it was somewhat good, but nothing too wild. But anyway, when he sits down, he says that Katara and Aang can really help them out in the freedom fight. Now, Sokka doesn't really want to help them out because they have to go to the North Pole on a time schedule. But he goes, "Oh, Sokka, you're leaving already? I have an important mission for you." "What's the mission?" Then we jump cut to the next day. So we see Smeller Bee and Pipsqueak on two different trees. And on the third tree is Sokka and Jet. Now, Jet is able to do these bird sounds with his crew to communicate with each other, which is really cool. And they're trying to see how many people are trying to walk into their forest. Now, Sokka stabs the tree with a blade and puts his ear up to the hilt, and it says it helps with vibrations. That's really cool. Is that real? Probably, I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I don't really know, but probably, but I don't know though. It looks cool, so I'm gonna say it's real. Anyway, Sokka says that he can hear one person coming up, but then when he looks down to see the person, it's a really old man. So he goes, "Okay, false alarm." But no, Pipsqueak, Smeller, Bee, and Jet all jump down from the tree and start to punk this old man. Jet specifically knocks his cane out of his hand. He goes, "What are you doing here, you Fire Nation scum?" The old man is from the Fire Nation. You can tell by what he's wearing. But he goes, "What are you doing here, you Fire Nation scum?" The old man goes, "Please, I don't want any trouble." He goes, "What are you doing here? You here to burn down some villages? Tear his family apart? Huh? Huh?" The old man tries to run away. Pipsqueak and Smeller Bee pushes him to the ground. Jet cocks back his arm to hit him, and Sokka stops him. He goes, "What are you doing, Jet?" He goes, "Sokka, he's Fire Nation. Did you already forget what the Fire Nation did to your mother?" I'm like, "What? You're trying to guilt trip this man instantly." And obviously, Sokka's like, "No, obviously he doesn't forget what the Fire Nation did. But what does that have to do with this? This is a sickly old man." Now, obviously, you could say, "Well, Captain Yeet, this old man could have done some jacked up stuff in the past. He is Fire Nation," which is true. I mean, obviously, just because you're part of a larger evil group doesn't mean you're going to be evil. But, we don't know that. All we know is the old man just trying to pass through, and Jet is trying to beat the brakes off this old man. So Jet goes, "Look, things have to be done you don't like," and pushes Sokka out the way. And Sokka tries to help the old man. Well, no, he doesn't try to help him up, but the old man can tell that Sokka was trying to help him. So after that happens, we fast forward to Sokka chilling at the tree fort. Well, I guess I call it a hideout. And when we go over there, Aang goes, "Hey Sokka, look what the Duke gave me." And the Duke gave Aang, I forgot what they're called, but the little firecracker. I think they are called firecrackers, right? The little white balls you throw on the ground. There's a little spark. So he throws one at Momo, and Momo gets really scared. And so Momo jumps on Aang's back and starts to throw a bunch at Aang's feet. He goes, "Okay, okay, okay, I'm sorry." Momo was not having it, boy. "Okay, okay, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Katara runs over. She goes, "Hey, Sokka, where's Jet? I want to give him this really pretty hat I made." And so Sokka gets really mad and tells him about the whole old man situation. Now Katara goes, "I want to hear Jet's side of the story." So then we go over to Jet. He goes, "So Sokka, you told them what happened, but you didn't tell them that he was Fire Nation?" No, he didn't. Specifically, Aang and Katara are talking back to to Sokka, but it's really Katara the main one that's angry about this whole situation. So Sokka goes, "Okay, yes, he was Fire Nation, but he was still just an old man that did nothing wrong, and Jet was trying to beat the brakes off him." No, Jet goes, "No, Sokka, you don't know this. He was actually an assassin. Look at this blade. There's a hidden compartment for poison. He was trying to take me out. He was going to kill me, Sokka." You saved my life. Sokka's like, what? I'm falling for this stupidness? I was there. There was no dagger there because he had it concealed, Sokka. Falling for this stupidness? Like what? What do you take me for? He was there, and while I forgot to mention this, but Pipsqueak and Smeller B patted the old man down, and the only thing that was on him was like a little satchel, like a little bag. I mean, I guess you could say the blade was in the bag, but no, Sokka's not falling for this stupidness. There was no dagger, no nothing. He's trying to play Sokka. He ain't stupid, and so Sokka storms out. Jet says that he really hopes that Katara and Aang doesn't leave because he needs their help because they're waterbenders. Specifically, he found out that the Fire Nation is going to burn down their forest. So they need a lot of water to fight against the forest fires, but the ravine that's close to them has like no water. So he needs to help the waterbenders the water into the ravine. They're like, of course we'll help. So then we fast forward over to Katara and Aang talking to Sokka in their own little hut, and they're like, we have to stay. We have to help them with the Fire Nation. They're gonna burn down the village. Well, not the village. They're gonna burn down uh they're gonna burn down the forest, and they're going back and forth on this. And Sokka goes, "Look, my instincts are telling me Jet is a bad dude. Katara doesn't really want to listen to this." So then we fast forward to later that night. And when we go over to that night, we see Appa sleeping on the tree. I just thought they had Appa like inside the tree. Well, not in, but they're above the tree line. I mean, yeah, they're above the tree line. So I thought they just had Appa sleeping at the base of the tree, maybe around the back of the tree. No, he's sleeping on top of the tree. These trees must be really strong because I don't know how Appa's able to I don't know how the tree's able to withstand Appa. That's a big dude, man. Like how? I don't know. I don't know how he's able to do that, but I mean, hey, he's doing it. Okay, then. So we see Sokka. He wakes up and he sees Jet and his crew walking around. So he starts to follow them. Eventually, they go over to the ravine, and the ravine is being pushed back by this river dam. And there's like no water inside of the ravine. So the plan is to have Katara and Aang waterbend water into the ravine to fill it up. They're going to use the explosive jelly that they got in the beginning of the episode and blow up the river dam and then have all that water flood the Earth Kingdom village, and it's going to take out the Fire Nation. Now, obviously, you're thinking to yourself, what about the regular people? Even the Duke bring it up. Wait, Jet. Yeah, we're gonna take out the Fire Nation, but there's regular earthbending people in that village. What about them? Sacrifices have to be made. Like what? This dude is psychotic. He's about to kill a bunch of innocent people. Yes, I know there's a bunch of Fire Nation in there, but there's also a bunch of regular people. Like this village is just like that village from what 3 or 2 episodes ago. I forget the episode in prison. Remember that? Haru, remember Haru's village? It was a bunch of regular people with the Fire Nation in there, and he's about to kill all the regular people. This guy is sick. Now Smeller B and the Pipsqueak are able to find Sokka. They bring him over to Jet. They start to argue because obviously Jet is about to kill a bunch of regular people, and Jet is like, Jet goes, but Sokka, the Fire Nation are there. The Fire Nation that tears family apart, that kill people. We're gonna take them out too. This is war. Sacrifices have to be made. Sokka's like, no, you're wild. So then he tells Miller B and Pipsqueak to take Sokka on a walk, a very long walk, and so they start to walk away. Now, Jet has the same conversation later on in the episode with Katara and Aang, and in this conversation, and then in that conversation, they don't bring up this one specific point I was thinking of, because Jet brings up the same point that we're taking out the Fire Nation that tears families apart, that kills people. I'm like, Jet, you're doing the same thing. Now, almost everybody here in your crew has had their families killed and torn apart. You're about to tear apart and kill a bunch of regular families too, just like the Fire Nation. Now, nobody brings those specific points up, which got me really mad. I mean, like, he's doing the same thing. Now, obviously, he's doing it, thinking to himself, he's doing it for the greater good, he's thinking of the Fire Nation, but still, he's still killing these families. Like, there has to be another way. Maybe there's not, but still killing them is not the right option. So then we go over to Jed, and he's walking with Katara and Aang, and what's it? Katara specifically apologizes for Sokka's behavior, and he goes, "Oh no, actually, Sokka apologized to me earlier this morning. Really? Yeah, I got the feeling that you talked to him. I did talk to him. I guess you got through to him." Such a smooth talker. He said that he said that Sokka's on a mission with Smiller B and uh Pipsqueak. I almost forgot his name. Will Smiller B and Pipsqueak. So specifically, the plan is these geysers are right next to the river that goes into the ravine, and there's like no water in these in the ravine. So the plan is for Katara and Aang to water bend the water out of the geysers that's gonna fill up the ravine with more of the geysers, with more of the water that they pull out. Now Katara, she's a little nervous because she's never actually water bend any water that she's not able to see. But Jet gets close to her. Hey, you can do it. Starts to blush, you know. Aang's like, what about me? Well, you're the Avatar. You can do anything, right? Ah, Jet. Yeah, I could do it. So then they water bend the water out of all these geysers, and then we fast forward. I don't know how much time passed. We fast forward to them doing it to like, well, we see how in one, two, three, four, five. Wait, one, two, three, four, five, five. We see five geysers filling up the ravine more and more. You see just coming out of it. It looks pretty cool. So Jet specifically told them to meet back up at the hideout, not at the ravine. Katara says he wants to meet Jet at the ravine. Aang's like, well, he said meet back up at the hideout. Yeah, but we got done early, so we can just go ahead and go, right? Yeah, I guess so. He's like, he's like, yeah, I guess we could do that. So then we fast forward over to what's his name, Sokka, and Sokka is like, you know, getting really mad, yelling at Smeller B and Pipsqueak. They're like, hey, Jet is a really good leader. He knows what he's doing. And then Sokka sees some of those animal traps from the beginning of the episode. So he runs over to the animal traps, jumps over them. Smeller B and Pipsqueak don't know what they are, so they run right into it. Then they get caught up in the metal cage. Now, when they're caught up in the metal cage, Pipsqueak, instead of trying to find a way out of it, he just goes, hey, you're gonna eat your nuts, Smeller B? Because like there's like these little nuts on the trap, like you know, to lure animals in. And instead of trying to find a way out, he just starts to eat the nuts. And he goes, hey, you want your nuts? Like, yo, try to find a way out of the cage that you're in. What are you doing? It's like so dumb. So then we go over to Aang and Qatar. They go over to the ravine and they see Longshot and a few other people putting the explosive barrels next to the river dam. Now, when they see this, they're like, wait a second, what are they doing? If they do that, then they put two and two together. They're going to blow it up and flood the village. Qatar's like, what? No, no, Jack wouldn't do that. Aang goes, I think they might. So he pulls out his glider to go fly over there to stop them, but then Jet comes out of nowhere and grabs the glider and snatches it out of Aang's hand. And then he does the same conversation with Katara and Aang, like, you know, we're taking out the Fire Nation. They tear families apart. We're doing the right thing. Obviously, Katara's like, no, you're gonna kill a bunch of innocent people. And they go back and forth on this. He goes, come on, Katara, you have to understand. I know your brother didn't understand. Katara's like, what? Where's Sokka? It's okay, Katara, and tries to touch her face. I'm like, what? When I kind of was saying something like that, that sounds like you just killed him. Obviously, she's really upset, so she brings out a ton of water from her little satchel and smacks Jet with it and sends him flying. Aang tries to jump on his glider again, but Jet is able to get back up, grab the glider, and put it on his back. Now, Aang specifically states that he does not want to fight Jet, but Jet goes, hey, you're going to have to if you want your glider back. And he says it in kind of a funny way. Remember, even overalizing Avatar even said the same thing. But they jump onto the treetops and start to fight from branch to branch. And during this fight, you can tell Jet is using his environment very well because this is the place he's been living for the past 5 years. So he does a few sneak attacks in the leaves and the branches. And this isn't really his environment, so he gets kind of caught off guard a few times. And like I said, Aang specifically does not want to fight Jet. So Aang is specifically dodging most of the time. Whenever Jet does get a bit too close with those hook blades, that's when Aang has to use his airbending to push him back or to block or dodge. But eventually Jet does get way, and I mean way too close with those things. So then Aang makes this swirling air tunnel to shoot Jet back. Now Jet does dig his what's it called? His hook blade things into the tree trunk. Well, is it a tree trunk or a tree branch so he doesn't get blown away? But he does get blown away eventually. It's just too much for him. But I do like the wind tunnel that Aang makes. It looks really cool. Like this Joker looks dope, man. Especially when we get that wide shot of it. Yeah, that is dope right there. So like I said, Jet eventually does fall off because it's just too much for. Oh my goodness! Give me a second. Okay, sorry about that. When I turned my camera back to look this way, the cam or the table that I have my camera on, it hit my TV stand and my TV's on. That's why the camera was like going like this. I was, oh my goodness, I did that by accident. But anyway, the glider falls off of Jet's back, so Aang jumps down to go get it. Jet jumps down with him and kicks Aang, and he hits a tree branch hard. Then he lands on the ground really hard. Aang starts to stumble to get back up. Katara comes out of nowhere, starts to smack Jet with a bunch of water over and over again, and then she freezes Jet against a tree because he's like soaked in water. Now, up to this point, anytime Katara froze water, she just did like a hand movement in Pacific way, then the water froze. But no, specifically this time, you know when it's cold outside and you get to see your breath? She does that. She just breathes towards Jet, then we see her breath. It's not cold outside, but we just see her breath, and then it freezes him, which is really cool because usually, it's the hand movement, but seeing the icy breath was pretty dope. I do like that. It was pretty dope to see the icy breath. So after she does this, she gets really mad at Jet. She goes, Jet, you lied to me, and I trusted you. You lied to me and I trusted you, Jet. And Jet goes, it's for the greater good. Now you hear a bird noise off to the side. And then Jet does a bird noise again. Now Katara and Aang wasn't specifically with Sokka earlier in the episode, so they don't know the whole bird noise communication. Katara does kind of realize this too late because I love this scene because you see, like, look at her face, like you can tell this is shocked because she kind of understands. Wait a second, what are you doing? Like she even says, like, what are you doing? And she kind of understands, like, wait a second, he's communicating with his boys, but she kind of realizes that too late. That's why her eyes are like so big right here. Like, what? No. But hey, he already gave the command. Long shot shot the bow. It made the jelly. Long shot shot the bow. The explosive jelly starts to explode. The whole river dam blows up. All the water floods the village and destroys it. Aang and Katara falls to their knees because they're like, oh no, that all those people died. But then Sokka pulls up with Appa. Nope, they didn't. Sokka, you okay? Where were you? He went to the village to warn everybody. Now, he specifically states that at first, the villagers didn't believe them. Well, not really the villagers, it was specifically the Fire Nation soldiers in the village. They didn't believe Sokka, but one man vouched for him to please believe him, which was the old man that he helped earlier, which is really sweet. Which is kind of wild because we helped the old man in the prison that was on our side, and he betrayed us. And then we help an old man that's not on our side, that's a Fire Nation guy, and he helped us, which is really sweet. And he was able to convince everybody to leave the village, and thank goodness that they did, because as we saw, all the water came in and destroyed the village completely. When we get the flashback when he was talking about the old man vouched for him, it went into this really cool looking style. I do really cool, but I mean, it's not really a crazy different style. It still looks like Sokka, but yeah, I do love this one scene where we see all the villagers off to the side watching their village get destroyed, and it makes a gigantic river of all this stuff. And this little girl runs over to the river, and she goes, "Hey, Lady Pretty Girl or Miss Pretty Girl," and grabs a little doll. That was sweet. That was a really sweet thing. And one thing I started to think about was, wait a second. So is the Fire Nation still taking control of the village? Because it kind of sucks that the Fire Nation controls the village. So after it flooded, they have to rebuild. Is the Fire Nation still controlling them? Maybe not, because the Fire Nation probably doesn't want to help them rebuild this place, so they might just leave. But we don't know. Maybe on the wiki it says if they left or not. Hopefully they did leave, but I don't know if they did leave. Anyway, Jet calls Sokka a traitor. He goes, "No, Jet, you became a traitor when you stopped helping innocent people." Now, that was a good line. I think I said it wrong, but that was a really good line. And so Aang and Katara jump onto Appa. They fly away, leaving Jet there. And then Aang and Katara go, "Hey, Sokka, how come you didn't come to the ravine to stop them from exploding it, and you went to the villagers instead? Was it your instincts?" "Yeah, it was my instincts. Sokka, you're flying the wrong way." I mean, sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. And he has to keep it moving. And then that's the end of the episode. This is a really good episode. I do like this episode. And over analyzing Avatar, the YouTuber always put in the comics. I do like this episode review for him too, because it's just so funny. He's had all the funny jokes this one episode. But yeah, that's the episode for you guys today. So subscribe. I'll see you all later. Thank you all for watching. I thank all of them women human beings, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye. All right.